Welcome to the Lost Boys, the Found Fathers podcast. I'm Gabriel O'Sullivan, and this is my co-host, Will Haycox. We are men who have suffered the loss of a child, and through this production, we desire to offer encouragement, strength, and hope to our fellow brothers who have traveled the same journey. Good morning, Will.
Good morning, Gabe.
So we are on episode 6 of our series called Leading Our Kids Well, and this is going to be our final episode on this series. So if you haven't listened to episodes 1 through 5, we highly recommend that you go back and check those out. And again, just to recap for someone that may be jumping in here that have never heard this show before, what we are doing here is just what our intro said. We're trying to offer encouragement, strength, and hope to guys that have been on a similar journey of us, which is guys who have been through child loss. And so most of our previous episodes are to that end and offering that encouragement, strength, and hope. And now we're also trying to weave in the second half of our name, which is the Found Fathers, and just helping us to develop as fathers. That's what our content's about, because we hadn't figured this thing out. We're no experts, right? We're still learning, just like you guys are learning too. And we want to help pass along any knowledge, not necessarily knowledge that we have, but particularly knowledge that God's Word has. That what does the Bible say about parenting? What does the Bible say about fatherhood? And how can we become better dads, better husbands? And so that's kind of where we are now. So we're going to get into episode 6. And anything you want to say, Will, before we
I just always like to throw in my loving ribbing when you mention if you're jumping in right now. I'm like, what kind of monster are you? Like, sorry, I'm a guy that I have to, like, if I go to a podcast, I like go to the beginning and I listen to it. And like, even if the first 10 episodes are bad quality, I'm like, I need to know the story and the backstory. So yeah, I always, every time Gabe's like, if you're just jumping in, I'm like, what sort of monster is in here? Like, this is the 70th episode. I'm just going to listen to it.
Bro.
Yeah.
74
episodes.
Right?
So we love you. We're glad you're here. If it's just the first episode, I'm just kidding. But also not really.
True.
Kind of not kidding.
You're not.
But I'm kind of kidding. Yeah.
Well, see, that's like, I listen to Jocko podcast and hashtag Jocko, @Jocko. I don't know.
Whatever he is.
I don't know whatever that means.
Some guy that has a lot more followers than us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to throw out lingo that sounds like I know what I'm talking about. So that I can't. There's like 350 episodes, I think. So I just have to like scroll through and be like, oh, this looks like a cool title. I'm gonna check that out right now. And then his episodes might be sometimes 4 hours long. Like now I'm listening to
committing
that
to this for the next week,
month, or something like that. And
that's the reason I don't listen to Joe Rogan, because like everybody talks about how Joe Rogan's got the biggest podcast in the world, and I know there's coarse language and he talks to some whack jobs, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this. So there's like 3,000 episodes of Joe Rogan. He's been podcasting since like 07 or 06 or something
before
ridiculous.
The computer was invented.
So
How did he do that?
I don't know. He invented computers. Him and Al Gore invented the internet. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sorry, kids, if you're too young to understand that joke.
And Will's
I'm
just
probably too young to understand that joke.
When he says he doesn't listen, he really listens to Joe Rogan.
I love
If you
Joe
say that, then we get canceled.
We get canceled.
Like, the whole episode.
I'm sorry,
disappears.
Joe. Like, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but like I went back to episode 1 of Joe Rogan's podcast, and I started listening to it, and I probably listened to it for like 45 minutes, and I like some switch in my head was like, I'm basically committing the rest of my life to try to catch up on these episodes. And Joe Rogan, I'm sure you have a good podcast, but like I'm not doing it. I'm not just gonna go from the beginning.
Jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even know. Joe Rogan's podcasts are like at least an hour long, if not 2 or more. So it's like that's like 3 to 6 or 9,000 hours of episodes. Like, I love you, Joe. I'm sure you have a great podcast. It's a lot better than ours, I'm sure. But I can't. Sorry, I'm not listening to Joe Rogan's podcast every day till I'm like 90.
Man, we
sorry,
don't,
Joe.
We don't have an intervention for Will right now.
Yeah.
Pray for him. Just scroll through the
gonna
titles.
Cancel. What?
Would you ever wear 2 different socks?
I'd do that, yeah.
I wouldn't do that. See, so we're a little different. I thought you were going to be like, no way.
No, yeah.
Anyway.
I used to have, when I was in school, this is complete tangent. When I was in school, I went to Presbyterian College, go Blue Hose. So we were blue and red, and I was that guy. Like, I bought a pair. I was wearing, like, Nike basketball shoes, even though I was a 240-pound white dude who could barely jump. I got a blue pair and a red pair, and I would wear one red one and one blue one because it's PC, and I thought I was cool. Probably everyone on campus is like, what is this fat dude doing? Like, how stupid is he? But yeah, I thought it was cool. So
that's awesome. That's
I'm very organized in some things in my life and very unorganized in other things in my life. So
you started the thing, because like my kids now, they've been talking about the Rick and Morty's. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's where you buy the 2 LaMelo Ball shoes. And I think they actually make some with like branded or whatever. Some cartoon apparently.
Big baller brands. Yeah.
So this is Puma brand, not
Okay.
the Big Baller. So this is the younger brother. LaMelo.
Okay.
I don't think the Big Baller thing worked out too well for
Probably
the big
not.
brother. But so Puma makes LaMelos, and you can buy like this hyper green, fluorescent green, this light fluorescent pink.
I like it.
And then you wear one of each,
That's
and
cool.
then you're doing the Rick and Morty thing. But I think they
Okay.
actually do make potentially. I don't know. Somebody can fact check me on this. Not that you're going to, because this has nothing.
Why
to do
does
with
it matter?
fathers.
Yeah, we're 5 minutes in and we're
Yeah,
both talking
sorry
about
about that.
nonsense, but
Yes.
I hope you enjoy it.
Where you can buy like it comes in the box, and one's one color and one's the other, and then it's got some of the little cartoon, logos on it or whatever. So
Why
if
would
you
they do
started
that,
bro?
though? I
You
must
should get
have.
some
That was
kinda
in like 09. So yeah, I'm gonna just choose to believe that I'm the one that started that. Yeah.
You should. Well, this is like yesterday. I had this conversation with a couple people that it seems to me that we, as a species, would have advanced beyond the simple sign of thumbs up being the universal sign, at least in the United States, for liking something. But we haven't, because apparently that existed prior to Siskel and Ebert. Do you know who Siskel and Ebert are? So
I know Roger and Ebert.
Yeah. Yes. So
Okay.
So his partner
Okay.
in the movie review
Okay.
TV show that they had back in the day. So you would watch a TV show where these guys reviewed movies. So this was
Okay.
like
Gosh, that sounds terrible.
before Fandango or whatever, and they would talk about all the movies that they watched, and then they would say, thumbs up. And then if they both liked the movie, 2 thumbs up. That meant everybody's going to go see this movie. So the movie advertising would say, this movie got
remember
a
that.
2 thumbs up by Siskel and Ebert. Okay?
Yeah, it's on the back of the VHS box, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And on on the TV spots and the whole thing, or on the radio or whatever, and you're like, oh man, I got 2 thumbs up by Siskel and Ebert. I'm going to go see that. So I'm sure things like Rocky and Goonies and Back to the Future, they all would have got that, of course. Things like She Devil, 2 thumbs down. Don't go see that. Roseanne
2
Barr.
thumbs
Terrible.
down.
So I'm just thinking, like, if they kind of trademarked that, and obviously it existed because it was like before they were there.
People knew what it was.
People
Yeah.
knew what it was. But we haven't transitioned past that, even to the point
we
that
still got,
on the Facebook,
Yeah.
it's the like, is the thumbs up. And like our buddy, Jason Williamson, Thumbs Up Records. Like that's the name of his record resale label. So shout out to Thumbs Up Records.
Yeah.
If you like
We expect our
vinyl,
kickback, Jason.
that's right. If you like vinyl records and you that's the thing. If you collect in records, check out Jason. He's got a super cool buy sell thing. Find it on Facebook and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I was like, Jason, have you given and Mark Zuckerberg, if you're listening, which you're not, just
Of
like
course,
Joe Rogan's not
him and
listening.
Joe Rogan are both just listening every time we record a
They
podcast.
probably do.
I know,
So
yeah.
if you are listening,
Mark is a lizard man, though. Sorry.
I
complete derail us.
I just think that you should definitely give Siskel and Ebert's like families a little bit of love. Like show them some love, give them some royalties on
Man, that get
your
expensive,
thumbs
wouldn't
up
it?
thing.
Yeah.
Because these guys designed it, developed it, trademarked it, and then we haven't gone past that. I don't know what there is. Like I don't know. Like I don't know what there is to be next.
I don't know. Like thumbs sideways. I don't know. Like
I think no
pinkies
thumbs.
up. I don't know. No thumbs.
I think no hands. This is going to be some other kind of gesture.
toes down. I don't know.
We're going to think of it, and we're going to be the next
we're gonna
guys.
trademark it. Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds
So,
great.
all right, man.
So now
I'm
that we're
sorry.
9 minutes into the podcast,
Hopefully we haven't lost every listener after that
well,
time.
Mark Zuckerberg probably jumped off after I called him a lizard man because he's probably now like trying to find my address and blow me up because I
he knows your
spoke the
address.
truth. Yeah, he probably already does.
Just like the FBI. I told that story a couple episodes ago. They know my address too. So
Yeah. So as we digress for 10 minutes,
yeah, so we're going last episode of this series about leading our kids well, and we've been taking like a Bible verse that kind of speaks to some manners and methods and attitudes that we should have about parenting. And this is going to be the one that we end on. This is James chapter 1, verses 19 through 20. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen. So everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. All right, Will, you're gonna jump in and tell me how does this apply to our parenting and to being great fathers that lead our kids well.
Did you talk to my parents before you asked me to talk about this one?
I did not.
Yeah, so I was a horrible little kid. I was like the kid that, and you've kind of mentioned some of your kids, you know, like there's like that tough exterior. I had that. Like, anytime my parents asked me to do something, once I got to be like, I don't know, my mom would probably say like all the way up, but once I got to be like a teenager, early teenage years, it was just like everything that my parents asked me to do, I was just looking for a way not to do it, just to spite them, like just to show them I'm independent, I can do that. So like that's kind of my background. Was I was quick to become angry, very slow to listen, and quick to speak. So like I was also the kid that like I would look for hurtful things to say to my parents when we were arguing about something, like yelling at my mom or my dad, saying something completely inaccurate, but that I thought, was going to hurt them. And I probably did. And I've said, I'm sorry. So, that is what it is. But this is something that I really take to heart, because that's my natural inclination, my natural flesh, and my personality. I have very little patience for most anything. And the Lord has, helped me, sanctified me, and given me a lot more patience than I had, even 3, 4, 5 years ago. But it's not just like with your kids, it's a lifestyle, it's something that you have to work with the Spirit and pray like every day that He would make you, just like it says here, quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And it's so hard because we live in a world of, quick, fast, like everything has to be done yesterday. Everyone expects so much of us, our work, our relationships, every friend that we have, it feels like we're we're doing something. We're always trying to get together. We're always trying to, I have this event, I'm planning to do this. We got to go to church, and like we love going to church, but also we have to serve here and serve there, and it's so easy to let that become a task too. Yeah. And so it's so easy to turn your brain off, or like, I don't want to listen. I don't want to be slow. I don't have time to be slow. I'm just going to speak and be angry. I'm just going to jump out there with what I need, what I feel, what I'm frustrated about, and just, draw my line in the sand because I'm so fed up, this is the point and I'm going no further. And that's such a human thing, I feel like, to just like draw that line in the sand. We don't have control over so much in our lives. So when we think we do, we dominate that space. And I think the home is where that people around us suffer the most, that we, if we, as men, if we're frustrated at work, we're frustrated, with all the things we have going on in our lives, debt or, whatever is going on, medical situations, we can take that out on our family so easily because, our wife isn't doing something we want her to do, or she's not listening to you, or, whatever it is. And we can be so quick to just lash out and attack with our words. And the point is right there in the verse, why we shouldn't do this, because human anger does not produce righteousness that God desires. So there's the whole difference between human anger and God's righteous anger, and we've kind of talked about that in other episodes, that essentially God is righteous. So when He's angry about something, it's a holiness issue where God's holiness is being challenged. And when we are angry, it's a pride issue a lot of times, that our hearts, our pride, our image of ourselves is challenged, and so we want to take that back. And so I'll throw it to you, Gabe, but I think that's something that I've really struggled with. So this verse means a lot to me, that I have to be intentional about slowing down. Like I said last episode, my 3-year-old's going through this, like, I don't know if you want to call it a sleep regression or what, where she's like, she goes to bed at whatever time, and then 5 minutes later she gets up, 3 minutes later she gets up, 2 seconds later she gets up, and it's like an hour process of trying to get her to actually go to bed. And it would be so easy just to go in there and be like, Bonnie, get in your daggum bed or else, but that's not the way we should parent, that we can express our frustration, but being quick to listen and saying, there's times when she's getting out of bed just because she's being annoying and frustrating, but there's times when like she has to go to the bathroom, or whatever, she needs this or that. So that's a small silly example, but being mindful of why are we reacting this way? You know, what's going on that we feel like we have to react in anger and, you know, claim our space, whatever it is, you know, like our pride's been hurt and we want to force ourselves into this situation. And I think that's something that we all struggle with to a certain extent. But
yeah, and you know, it says the first thing should be quick to listen. You know, it's so easy as a dad to, for kids, you know, doing something we don't approve of, or if they didn't do what we asked them to do, to just immediately, like, you know, respond and speak in probably a not so nice tone. And but do we even know, you know, the whole story? You know, and again, I'm not saying our kids are in control of the household. I'm just saying that, like, if we've told them to go get on their shoes and get in the car, and they don't have on their shoes and they're not in the car, well, and you know, maybe they didn't put their socks on and they had to go get some socks on to then put on their shoes. Like, I don't know, that's a dumb example too, but the point there is that quick to listen, like, that should be our posture first. Because if our posture is just to usurp our will, or if our posture is just to make our voice heard and potentially in an angry tone, then what are we doing, and how are we showing our kids that they should react to other people in their lives? Like, how are they going to treat their brothers or sisters? How are they going to treat their friends? How are they going to maybe treat their teachers or coaches or their employees one day, or heaven forbid their kids, you know, one day? I mean, in my short parenting life, I have apologized, you know, to my kids a million times, it seems like, for me having to say, look, I'm really sorry that I reacted so quickly and spoke so harshly to you. Like, that was not a good example. Like, I apologize for that. I hope that you learn from Daddy's mistake and that you don't treat your kids the way I just treated you. You know, like, because I was not modeling that quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Because we got to be thinking, like, our kids are either going to look back at us one day and be like, man, I really want to parent the way that my parents parented me, or they're going to look back and be like, I do not want to parent the way that my parents parented me, right? And if they're following the Lord and we've done a good job, right, then we hope that they look at us and are like, that's the way I want to do it. If we're not following the Lord and we've done a poor job, you know, then they're going to look at us the other way. Or worst case scenario, our kids are not following the Lord and they're like, I'm going to let my kid do whatever they want to do because my parents didn't let me do whatever I want to do. And that would be that's a whole nother thing. That's a heart issue, right? But we want to model this quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And it makes me think of that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I think the first one is that you listen to understand first. Like, the first habit of a highly effective person is you listen to understand first. And that's exactly what this is saying, that we're quick to listen.
Yeah, and it's so easy. Like, I struggle with this now. Like I said, I've always struggled with it. But, like, in my job now, I'm trying to, you know, prove myself and, you know, and kind of climb that ladder and do really well and show my higher-ups that I know what I'm doing. But that's what I struggle with, is I think I have an idea, and I really want to show people, like, hey, I know what I'm doing, and this is Will's come up with this great thought.
Yeah.
And so I jump in, and I'm like, you know, why don't we do it this way? When you said that earlier about, you know, successful people listen to understand, I don't know. He's not going to be listening to this podcast either, but I don't know if you know David Wise. He's the president of Harper, where I work, and there's a lot of pictures that, like, they put out for all of our publications, and he's been the president for 15 years, maybe even longer than that, coming close to 20. And in almost every picture of him, this is great for a podcast. If you're listening to us on YouTube, you'll see. But he's, like, got his head down, and he's got, like, his thinking face on, and he's like, it's, you know, he's the leader of our company, and part of you would think, like, he needs to be, like, standing at a podium, you know, like, pointing, like, this is what we're going to do, or he's going to speak and, you know, demonstrate, like, this is what we're doing. But almost every picture that you have of him in our company photos is, like, someone's talking to him, and he's got a notepad, and he's just, like, sitting there
Wow.
patiently listening to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And that's the image I had when you mentioned that. It's like, I'm sure that goes a long way in him being successful, that he's taken the time to absorb the wisdom around him. And even if it's me telling him something and there's not a whole lot of wisdom to it, like, he takes the time to listen. And maybe I say 100 words and like 2 of them were good and the rest of them were stupid. But he can listen, be patient enough to hear that, and then teach me or correct me or, whatever, like provide guidance and make a decision. And I feel like we should be leading our families that way and being able to come in, like you said, not that our kids run the house and we're like, all right, what do you want to eat tonight? Oh, I want to eat, corn dogs and a bunch of pizza and French fries and ice cream and like all these things and cotton candy. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of wisdom in what you say, so I'm just going to let you eat all of that. No, like, you can ask your kids, like, what do you want to do today? What do you, it's a Saturday. What do you all want to do? How do you feel about joining this sport or joining that sport? Like, what do you feel about some of these family decisions? And that doesn't mean we have to do anything with what they say, but one, just including them and letting them know that we care what they think and that they have opinions and that their opinions matter, I think will go a long way. And two, it's a practice for us that, like I mentioned, I was such a terror when I was a teenager, and if to counteract that and continuing those attitudes as I let my kids grow, if I'm like modeling a behavior of I'm trying to listen to my kids as Bonnie is 3 and then 5 and 8 and 12, hopefully we can have this relationship where even though she's going to go through puberty like every other kid and and go off the deep end like we all do, having the relationship of like, let me listen to you, even if you're saying the dumbest, most 12-year-old girl thing right now, I'll listen. And like I said with me and my boss, 100 words she says, 2 of them might be valid and the rest of them are not. But demonstrating that I care about her, I care about her thoughts, I want to hear her, and I want to respond, like you said, in a way that shows I understand her thoughts, and not just coming in. The opposite of this verse says slow to speak and slow to become angry, and I'm just coming in the room and I don't even listen to her. I just jump on her right there and just, I can't believe you did this. Your mom said you did that today at school, blah, blah, blah. And so I think there's a lot of facets to this, like at work and everything else, but I think how we model this at home, to what you said a minute ago, can have huge effects on who our kids are in the world, and their relationship with the Lord, and their relationship with their coworkers and their bosses and their spouse one day, and their kids and everything. So.
And I think it's interesting that slow to speak and slow to become angry are right there together, because we've probably all recognized in ourselves that if we start jumping down somebody's throat with our words, then it's almost like that's this negative reinforcement loop, that the more we speak or the quicker that we speak, then the angrier that we can become, because we're just like, I'm going to just keep going. Right, it builds up. It just keeps going like a volcano, right? And so if instead we keep our mouth shut and we listen and we process and we even think about what are we going to say next, instead of just like, I'm going to yell at my kid or whatever, like, how should I speak to them in a way that will communicate the intensity of my feeling about the subject matter, but in a way that is not showing or expressing some type of human anger emotion, then we're not going to get angry, because we're going to be thinking rationally. We're going to be thinking logically, instead of thinking like like a lizard or a primate or whatever, that's just like,
just respond.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's super, super interesting. And I think God just kind of, revealed that to me. Like, keep your mouth shut, and then don't let your anger, build up and overflow like a volcano. And it says, because the next, verse there, 20 says, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. So, again, what we're not saying here is we're not saying that we should never be angry, because that's not what the verse is saying. There's a difference between this human anger, like you said, Will, that is based on pride or is based on unrealistic expectation that we can have developed that has nothing to do with godly anger, that has nothing to do with righteousness. And that's not the type of life that we want to exhibit, right? We want to exhibit a life that if we're angry about something, it's something that's worth being angry about because it's something that's not lining up with God's word or scripture. It's not edifying for the body. It's not helpful for your family or for your child's present or future. And we want to take that anger and then apply it appropriately in a way that's calm and directed and kind and gentle. And as we said in last episode, helps to build up those kids so that it benefits them instead of tears them down or demeans them or makes them scared, in some kind of way of us. And so, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
I mean, I know everyone probably knows someone this way that, like, their dad was very demanding, very, like, comes home. He's worked hard all day, like, and you should give him credit. Like, he worked hard. He's providing for his family. Like, he's doing the right things there. But he comes home, and it's like a no-fly zone. Like, you don't mess with dad. Like, dad comes home, he eats, takes a shower, and he sits in his chair, watches TV, or whatever he's doing, and you don't mess with dad. Because if you mess with dad, if you ask him for help with the homework, you inconvenience him. You're being too loud in the house. It's gonna be like hell to pay. Like he's gonna yell and scream, and he's gonna take your toy. He's gonna turn off your game. He's gonna, you can't watch the show. You got to go to bed now. Like everyone knows, or at least I know several people that their dad was like that. And I guess there's several different reactions, but some of the people that I've seen, it creates like kids that are so submissive and so like beaten down that they don't. It really goes as far as to like it messes with their hopes and dreams for their lives. Like it's like, okay, well, if I step out of the box here, or I ask for this, or I plan to do that, and it's not part of dad's plan, like I'm just going to get wrecked for it. And so it has so many far-reaching consequences besides like, and I'm saying I'm not perfect about this. There's times where like I'm just exhausted and I want to sit down and watch something, and my daughter's 3 and she wants to play, and I'm just like, gosh, it'd be great if you just go watch a show. She's into Bluey now. I don't know if your kids might be too old to have watched Bluey, but it's like a little dog cartoon. It's actually pretty good. But it's actually pretty good as far as all the kids shows go. But there's times when I'm just like, all right, I just need a few minutes. So like, I'm going to give her an iPad and let her watch Bluey. They're 9-minute episodes, so it's not too bad. So let her watch that for 9 minutes or 20 minutes. And so I know I am failing there because I should take more time and be with her and play with her when she wants to play and take advantage of this time while she's young and wants to, have fun with me. But there's the other side of like, okay, every time she asks something that inconveniences me, I'm just going to come down hard on her. Like at some point, she's going to stop wanting to play. Right. She's going to see dad as this off limits. Like I'm never going to come to him if I have problems. He's not going to comfort me. Like all these verses we've read, he's not going to be humble. He's not going to be gentle. He doesn't bear with me. He doesn't encourage me. He just says whatever he says to get me to leave him alone, and he can have his own time. And so I hope most of you aren't in that path, and I hope you didn't have a father like that. But I know that's a reality for a lot of people, and that's the extreme we want to avoid. Of I come home, I worked hard, my kids can leave me alone, kind of thing. Taking the time to be quick to listen to your kids and to their issues, their pains, their frustrations, whether you think they're silly or not, and play with them, interact with them. And when there is an issue that needs to be dealt with, like you said, Gabe, take the time to listen, understand everything from their perspective, and, whatever you think the truth perspective is, and then wisely and carefully speak. And if you need to be angry because your kids made a really bad decision, like, that's fine. Like there's a righteous anger of protecting your kids from, Bonnie's 3 and she likes to climb up on things and jump off. So like it's right for me and Hannah to look at her and be like, hey, you're standing on the counter. You're barely 3 feet tall and you're standing 4 feet up. You shouldn't jump, but then there's, you asked me to play and I'm tired, I'm going to yell at you. Like there's 2 different types of anger there, like we've said. So just try to dwell on this verse, and I think you can speak to this too if you want, Gabe, but the how of this, it sounds good, but the how you get to this place, like we said, it's not, I'm going to just decide today to be this way. It's a very slow, intentional, prayerful walk through verses like this, and understanding your relationship with the Lord, how he's been patient with you. And again, he didn't strike you down the first time that you made a mistake, but he gave you patience, gave you grace, forgave you all the times you've made as many mistakes as you did. And I know if you're like me, you probably made a whole lot more mistakes than your kids have made so far. And so having that understanding of the Lord has been this way to me, and Holy Spirit, I need you to help me be more like you in this, and show this love, to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.
Love it, man. And how do we do that? We get in God's word, right? We spend time in his word, and we spend time in prayer, allowing him to speak to us, and us, laying our concerns before him as well. So if you're not doing that, guys, we really encourage you to do that. It's, again, spending time with God daily helps develop us into more godly men who are having the characteristics of him instead of our sinful nature, which wars against our spiritual nature. And so if you've never done that, we encourage you to start in the book of John. Just take a section, take a chapter, 5 verses. We'll start somewhere and just, read it, think about it, write some small reflection about it in a little, notebook that you might have, on notes on your phone, where you're trying to process and wrestle with what's this verse saying in general, like what's it saying, then what's it saying to you, right? So like what's the personal application to that? And then, maybe writing a little prayer, asking God to help you with that. If you want something a little more meaty, I would recommend DJ's, our pastor DJ, he's written a really great resource called 40, the number 40. It's a great devotion book. 40 weeks, that's why it's called 40, of devotions, kind of taking us through scripture, and good stuff in there too. But if you're not down for devotion books yet, at least get in God's word, allow him to speak to you, because it is wonderful. It's living, it's active. Every time I read it, I'm gonna either be spoken to in a different manner by that verse, even if I've read it 100 times, or it's gonna remind me of, this is what you forgot about how you're to interact with me, coming from God, or how you're supposed to live your life. And so, we really recommend that. Anything else, Will, to close up this series, man? So, all right, so yeah, check out episodes, 1 through 5, if you haven't already, for this series. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new series, or at least a new episode. We appreciate you joining us today. And make sure that you follow us on the social medias, on the Webternet, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can check out my books. That will be done. Or also Every Little Thing, 6 Small Steps to Perfect Peace. Both of those are available online wherever you get books, most likely. So again, thank you for joining us today. Let's not be lost. Let's be found in him.